We have been on a journey. You know, we've gone through being, life, and consciousness, and the three essential processes. Well, differentiation, complexification, and the one we're going to really talk about is semi-permeability. You know, our relationships are everything. I mean, think about it. It's the way we're connected. We're all connected, right? That's what relationships are. They're connection. And that semi-permeability of consciousness is we let in and we don't let in. We only let in what we think and hope is going to make us whole and wholesome. That's going to help us with our wellness and our spiritual connectedness. And that's what we want to talk about today. This universal connecting thing called relationship. What really is it? What is it really? Well, let's start at the beginning. And I'm going to open with a paragraph from The Spell of the Sensuous by David Abram, which is a book I've just started, but it's already having its impact on me. He starts by saying, humans are tuned for relationship. The eyes, the skin, the tongue, ears, and nostrils, all are gates where our body receives the nourishment of otherness. This landscape of shadowed voices, these feathered bodies and antlers and tumbling streams, these breathing shapes are our family. The beings with whom we are engaged, with whom we struggle and suffer and celebrate. For the larger part of our species' existence, humans have negotiated relationships with every aspect of the sensuous surroundings, exchanging possibilities with every flapping form, with each textured surface and shivering entity that we happen to focus upon. All could speak, articulating in gesture and whistle and sigh, a shifting web of meanings that we felt on our skin or inhaled through our nostrils or focused with our listening ears, and to which we replied. Whether with sounds or through movements or minute shifts in mood, the color of the sky, the rush of waves, every aspect of our earthly sensuous could draw us into a relationship fed with curiosity and spiced with danger. Every sound was a voice, every scrape or blunder was a meeting, with thunder, with oak, with dragonfly, and from all these relationships, our collective sensibilities were nourished. You know, in one of Harvard's longest-running studies, started in 1938, it was on what really keeps us alive the longest. What is it that creates real wellness and wholeness? And after 85 years, this is a quote from the study, our relationships and how happy we are in our relationships has a powerful influence on our health. Think about that. Think about that. When we think of relationships, we mostly think of family and friends, maybe some romantic bits thrown in there, and that's as it should be. But what really makes us, in all of this, the best is the quality of our relationships. Think about that, the quality of our relationships. This is also from a commentary on the study. Close relationships, more than money or fame, are what keep people happy throughout their lives. Those ties protect people from life's discontent, help to delay mental and physical decline, and are better predictors of long and happy lives than social class, IQ, or even genes. That finding proved true across the board among both Harvard men and inner city participants. Over and over, we find this connection. And I want us to see that our relationships to one another, they're part of a deeper participation, if you will. And they're all mirroring each other. And we've talked about the oneness of being. That's the ultimate relationship, because the fact is, it's all happening around us. We're connected to each other, friends and family and partners. We're connected to our community. Those relationships are powerful and hopefully shaping us. And we're connected to nature. And this is the piece that we need to understand, because what we've found in other studies is when you're connected to nature, you're happier, you're calmer, you're more joyful and creative. And it's already built in. Someone asked me why I like cooking, and I said, well, it's the one place I know, sensually that life is giving itself away for the sake of more life. It's a holy junction. It is a everyday occurrence of a relationship that is deeper than me, with threads that go all over the place and ultimately back to the earth. I'm wearing jeans made out of cotton. Think about that. I'm wearing a flannel shirt made out of cotton. Yeah, grown right in the earth. Native. So today we're going to talk about relationships, this semi-permeability place where we let in and allow others to the otherness. And I love the way that Abrams talked about that. All this otherness is coming in, and it's helping define what is not other, who I am. And it has an impact on my own health and my wholeness and my well-being. So that's my opening shotgun blast. God bless relationships. To me, I have to say that, the difference between men and women is men focus more on things. Women are more tuned into relationships. Edie, the week after she retired, she was having at least 2 or 3, they're going for meetings with friends. They're not meetings, I guess, anymore. They're going for walks. They're going for coffee. They're going for breakfast. They're going for appetizers or a drink. Over and over, I go, what the hell? And I'm here at home. It's inspired me to want to get out more, I guess, to connect more, because my own relationships could use some quality management. So I'm opening with that as a guy. And I'll be honest, I think, men are at a disadvantage here, but if we pay attention, we can learn a lot. So, Bob, I'm going to start open with you. What say you to this relational piece?
Well, we've discussed in a variety of different ways over the course of many different episodes how important social connections are, how we can't be humans without those social connections, how there's never been a human being that existed at any time in history that wasn't part of a network of connections. Now, sometimes those connections can be very, very positive, and sometimes they can be negative, and that's kind of where we get into the whole idea of semi-permeability. How do you adjust the shields around your being to open enough to let in the good relationships and maybe keep some of the more negative relationships out? And how do you define what are the good relationships and what are the negative relationships? We just end up with a number of additional questions that we could dive into. But the fact of the matter is, we have to have those. Even if we're alone, we have the relationships that have led to where we are that turn into the voices in our head and turn into the ideas that we have. So, I think that it's very important to cultivate those kind of relationships. And now, me personally, at this stage of my life, I've cut down a lot on going out. And maybe I'm relying more on my electronic relationships with you and Marianne and a few other selected people. But the fact is, at all stages of our life, we vitally need those relationships to help us be human beings.
Amen. And, just to throw it out there, trust, respect, honesty, affection, communication, those are the 5 pillars in my mind of what constitutes what you want to let in. You don't want to let in the untrustworthy. You don't want to let in the people who aren't honest. So you catch my drift of what constitutes a healthy relationship. And think about in nature. We're getting all these feedbacks now that our relationship with nature has some problems, and we're trying to address that. So on that note, some more to throw at you, Marianne. What say you?
Well, I'm glad you brought up the word trust, because I think that is a critical factor in all relationships. And, we learn how to relate to others from our early years. And if those relationships are not trustworthy, or those relationships are hurtful, or we learn that we can't feel safe in the world, then we do start to put up these barriers. We start to put up these walls around us, which limits that semi-permeability that you're talking about on how much we're going to allow the world in and allow ourselves to engage with it. And I love what you said, Bob, about even if you're alone, I really think that every relationship that we've ever had is always with us. And so in some way, and what we talked about last week too, is we can open up to seeing those relationships in a new way, in a new light. And even if they were harmful or negative. And I think that's what that ongoing process is all about. And there's also unseen relationships. I think there's relationships with a spiritual aspect. There's relationship with the natural world, and it's changing us and affecting us. And always, again, they're always with us, those pieces. And when we can learn to find some trust, and I think it begins with ourselves, when we start to be able to trust ourselves, then we can start to be more open to relationships out in the world. And we learn how to discern much better. What do we let in? What do we not let in? Because if you're an open sieve, which children are, or you're an open person, then all of these things can come in, and it can get really confusing. And so I think that yes, we're relational beings. We're not in a vacuum. We're all part of each other. And how do we navigate that and manage that? It's an ongoing process.
And I'm going to bring in one of Bob's favorite words, balance. That we are in this relationship. We have our main people. For me, it's my wife and my kids, and then I have my grandkid now. Then I have my friends, of which you two are a part. I have some friends I don't meet with very much. Mostly, I think I piss them off. But these relationships are an analog of something even greater. And this is where, what I call the oneness of being. That's a Marianne, when I think of oneness, I think that's a word you bring up a lot. That it is a spiritual issue. The whole concept with relationships and how we manage and what we let in, what we keep out, and how we do that is the stuff of spirituality, of connectedness. And what we're trying to do, not just with the deep end, but I think as a species, is try to have a healthy relationship on all fronts. And what constitutes that. And we're still trying to figure that out to some degree. We now know with the earth, there are things that are unhealthy, and we now know those. And I think that that's important to know. and so we're still in a work in progress, if you want. But when you start lining these pieces up, every spiritual teaching talks about living in accord. And that's what they're talking about. They're talking about adjusting your permeability in such a way that you're letting in what is healthy and you're putting out what is healthy. And I think that that's what we're all looking for, even though sometimes, especially in this divided world, it's very difficult.
Let me throw another curveball into this whole thing. Our relationships are also influenced by outside forces. For example,